My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Here is psychopathic pacing, the vehicle and the airplane and the fake sun in the same position that it was this morning, as a matter of fact. And how is this? I took images of, this is the Wells Fargo, where I'm standing on the sidewalk of this Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. Everybody grab your iPhones and your Androids. Look up 240 North Euclid Avenue. You'll see the images that I'm capturing during the 7 a.m. hour. You'll see this clock. You'll see this same sun hunkered down beside this clock while I'm standing at this building during the 7 a.m. hour. It is currently 4:19 p.m. where you're looking at the same clock, you're looking at the same sun, and you're looking at the infamous OVITT Family Community Library where the demon-possessed are engaged in what is psychopathic pacing. All they're doing is going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth while they're monitoring my vagina, monitoring my devices, monitoring my physical person under an environment going to be used to diagnose severe mental illness shared by a population and to remove domestic terrorists like Alan D. Wapner, Mike Lorenz, Michael GERKEN, Otif El-Kadi, 9PNB784, monitoring while a psychopath, that's a demon, that's under the age of majority. The use of the noise is relevant to what is a demon-possessed person that's monitoring, and it's a show of aggression under the fake sun that is at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the pattern of conduct. That's the Southwest Airlines, the terrorist that's going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally, targeting with minor children, targeting, conspiring my murder with the population, doing so with the kidnappers of the Ontario Police Department, while the entity is engaging with a stalking with the mentally ill who are also under the age of majority. All are unprecedented manners of prosecuting Southwest and prosecuting the domestic terrorist, the Ontario International Airport, the removal of that terrorist calling itself an Ontario Airport Board, that terrorist calling itself an Ontario executive team, the terrorist calling himself a CEO, Otif El-Kadi, who is a potential immigrant. He's going to be deported. I just want to let you know right now, Mr. El-Kadi, if you are not a natural-born citizen, not only am I already prosecuting and it's complete, Southwest Airlines, the criminal pattern of conduct that it is engaging in under a fake sun, where the airport, which you are responsible for and have specific knowledge regarding all of the details regarding the coexisting behavior, which is mentally deranged, in that supernatural environment, which is relevant to criminal activity and your demon possession. And you can replace Otif El-Kadi's name with every other third party and state actor. The entity that engaged in kidnapping, this is all gang violence, which is prosecuting Mike Lorenz, Derek Williams, and every kidnapper, like the latest on December 19, 2025, Craig Hazelwood. That's a psychopath that was stalking with light with the people of the state at 3 o'clock in the morning, where they are still obsessing over my vagina and stalking me, which the evidence of this fake sun in the same position that it is at 7 a.m. And this is, again, a mentally disturbed minor who is in need of mental assistance. And that's based on their demon-possessed parents, the demon-possessed population that engage in, share in, and facilitate and encourage. They approve of the criminal activity and the mentally deranged behavior of those that are under the age of majority. Satan possessing children. That's what you need to know relevant to the pattern of conduct. Engage in criminal conduct. Title 18 federal stalking. That's also why Paul Leon is being removed from office. That's Engineer Light covering his office. He's engaged in domestic terrorism. He's an enemy of the United States, and he's engaging in that with the airport that has no terminals anywhere here. No terminals that are east of first of all, these are senior citizen apartments. And the fake sun that's remaining, the senior citizens are engaged in domestic terrorism. They're engaged in targeting, and they're doing so with the entity that is targeting me with regard to everything, knowledge about what I'm publishing online. And it is the evidence to put demons like 5RQC285 in mental facilities. Okay? This is the entity that's engaged in that P.O.C. with impunity. This is mentally ill behavior. They're pacing while a fake sun remains over me. There was no sun over you in a natural environment in Florida today, just so that you know that. And that's what we all know. And there are American citizens in this country that will be able to refer to the P.O.C. to prosecute the government that has conspired your murder and kidnapped you. Like what defendants like 83690H3 is engaging in, driving in Engineer Light, monitoring with minor children, engaging in it on video for the world and for the federal government to prosecute, because that's the impunity that engage in criminal summoning. The entity that engages in kidnapping, there's no sun that's going to be over this venue at 10:29 in the morning, where the Ontario police are engaged in kidnapping, pursuant to criminal summoning at this very venue, where they're acting with minor children, the minor children that they accuse me of molesting. They're going to federal prison, including while their minor age co-defendants are laughing on video. That's the mental illness. Psychopathic conduct, psychopathic disorders are not limited to what is criminal activity and deranged behavior, as you are given an illusion regarding what mental illness actually is and where it's sourced from. These are demons. And they're going to be taken away from their parents. That's a demon. And that's very disturbing. They're engaged in what is audible activity, relevant positioning, and light activity. And that's the significance of keeping a fake sun in Southwest Airlines. The government is engaging in criminal activity and holding hands with minor children, engaging in that criminal conduct, doing the same thing with regard to monitoring genitalia, vagina monitoring by demon-possessed third parties that are under the age of majority. The people of the state are going to federal prison for engaging in criminal activity with minors. They're losing custody of them. They are threatening and abusing them while they engage in this, and this is exactly what they're doing with the mentally incapacitated, like OPARC and Anthesis. This is what they do with them while they're using them to create what is the elements of monitoring me in concert with the government that is stalking as a whole airport. This is P.O.C. This is deranged behavior. They get excited also as I started documenting. It's speaking to knowledge, and that knowledge is based on the fact that they're demons. So they are aware of what they're doing because they're demon-possessed. They're monitoring. They're not aware of the substance and the words, the definitions of what I'm using. These are demon monitoring spirits on these children. And that's the danger, by the way, when the dead are procreating, because that's what the demon-possessed are. This is requiring what is martial law. This is P.O.C. It's currently 4:24 p.m. This is indeed the prosecution of the state of California, the prosecution of the U.S. government while it's underway in California. The entity that's engaged in what is gang stalking me at OVITT Family Community Library, establishing the precedent with regard to understanding the P.O.C. everywhere in the state. And the P.O.C. is the evidence for me to prosecute the entire state. The prosecution with regard to Starbucks, psychopathic pacing into the garage onto Lemon Avenue, they're pacing under a fake sun that's at the same position it was 7 in the morning. Look at the Google Drive. This is P.O.C. It's currently 4:25 p.m. The Ontario police that are gang stalking while it's being published. They're intentionally doing so with minor children. You're going to look at engineer light that's on Paul Leon's headquarters, the Ontario City Hall. That's engineer light. That's not some demonic possession. And Mike LORENZ, again, is very much hostile to him being exposed as the domestic enemy to this country, to the United States, a threat to children, a threat to the American people. But this is exactly what he is. And he's going to federal prison for the demon-possessed gang stalkers, the gang members of the Ontario police who are going out of their way to stalk me over here in the engineered light under a fake sunset at the same address while intentionally doing so with the same children that I captured on video. Understand the mentally ill that are psychopathic, they engage in more of that criminal activity as you expose it. These are domestic terrorists that engage in what is targeting American citizens and doing so with regard them no longer trying to hide that this country. Because that's what the Ontario Police Department are showing you. The people of the state are going to federal prison for gang stalking with minor children. They're losing custody of them. They're facilitating gang violence that minor children are engaging in right now. This is psychopathic by those under the age of majority, by the gang members that are the Ontario Police who are showing you the threat that they are to minor children and the American people. This is also the reason why they're being disbanded. They are not going to be any other place and any other territory in the U.S. engaged in law enforcement. Not only are they going to prison for every kidnapping, criminal summoning, like they did at the OVITT library. This is public corruption, one demon after another in these vehicles. This is psychopathic pacing. Fake sun from 7:40 in the morning until what I'm capturing in the previous video, the sunset, where these children are acting in concert with the department, engaged in gang violence with the people of the state, who engage in terrorism with minor children. And these are the mentally ill that are suicidal. These are the mentally ill that engage in serial killings. These are the mentally ill that have sex with the minor children that are engaged in gang stalking as well. And the government is engaging in and facilitating in it. This is the psychopathic pacing, relevant positioning. The demon-possessed keep a fake sun over me. Stalk with what is peculiarized light. That's what they're doing at the 280 North Lemon Apartments, light activity. Monitoring together, massive surveillance. They do so with minor children, keeping my vagina under surveillance. They do so keeping my communication devices under surveillance. They do so while they're demon-possessed. This is the entity that's engaged in that. The city of Ontario is going to be gutted out. And understand, this is all, everyone's aware about what's going on here. And the entity has been fully prosecuted on the internet and embarrassed. You need to understand the significance of what are the demon-possessed that fill the United States. They are enemies of this country. They're enemies of your constitutional human rights. And the entity just intentionally and deliberately to engage in an act of documented terrorism upon knowledge of what it is that I documented. This is the Ontario Police, Mike LORENZ, those that are bearing weapons and exercising authority under the law that they don't have, engaged in criminal surveillance, making a very clear communication to us American citizens, to us as people in the country, and so are the people of the state, the demons, domestic terrorists, homegrown terrorists, enemies of this country. They're making it very clear. Their hostility, their aggression, 9VIA057, their ongoing decision and investment in targeting you and murdering you and keeping you under surveillance, threatening you in doing so. 3WTD259, 9NHY203 with minor children. You see how they're focused on me? These are demons. They have a mature demonic spirit on them, and that Satan is using underage vessels. These are demons that are focused, and the people of the state are aiding, including the Ontario Police Department. They are engaging in that pattern of conduct while they are sharing in that psychopathic behavior. I just want to be clear, this is the reason why you have minor children that are fully capable of murder, of sexual violence, of engaging in that pattern of conduct, not different from what's going on in other parts of the world. And this is relevant to the international implications. The entity that's engaged in what is focusing, this focus right here, it's demonic. This is focus. This light activity, demonic, the psychopathic pacing, understand the Ontario Police Department, they don't have any intention of remaining in existence in a courtroom. They don't have any intention. You're looking at what were demons at the beginning as a matter of my documentation, and they are demons to date. Engage in criminal conduct, but understand they're engaging in demonic behavior. And it is terrorism in the U.S. They wanted you to see them on video engaging in gang violence with minor children, and that's what you got. Mike LORENZ is going to prison. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, these are the demon possessed that are under the age of majority, and they're focused on me. I just want to be clear. These are demons. This is the entity that's riding in a hallway instead of all this space over here. This is gang violence. Mike LORENZ is being removed from position. He's going to prison because he's engaged in the same pattern of conduct. And these are the people of the state. They give birth to demons, and this is the gang violence that they're engaging in the U.S. This is speaking to what is the necessity of martial law. They do not have any sort of protection. This is speaking to intent. So they are fully capable of being prosecuted under Title 18 for federal gang stalking, for conspiring murder. They're doing so with the government that's including itself in the pattern of conduct, with the entity that's stalking by the airport, and the entity that's stalking with. This is the spirit operating. So don't be distracted. They're focusing on where I'm at over here. This is the entity that's engaging in what is equally harassment, equally unlawfully threatening your life, and doing so with the Ontario Police, who are stalking. This is the pattern of conduct. This is the pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's engaged in that. This is the department that's criminally monitoring with minor children. And who arrives? Just like in the dark parking lot the other night? The entity's engaged in that pattern of conduct. Who arrives in the parking lot? The gang members of the Ontario Police Department. This is the P.O.C. while they're focused on where I'm sitting over here. They're focused on over here in this hallway where there's no room for them to be engaged in that, instead of all of this space over here. When they could be riding their bikes, this is what I want to show you. This is the pattern of conduct while they're engaged in gang stalking with the city of Ontario. This is P.O.C. Excuse me. Thank you. That's the pattern of conduct. It is currently 4:59 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library. Ontario Police stalking by helicopter, 5:02 p.m. By the way, the entity's engaged in criminal summoning. So you have, let me go ahead and document. I already captured on video. You have a gang of these minor children. Is this CEASELESS that's engaged in criminal summoning? On video under the fake moon. Is this CEASELESS? Yeah, CEASELESS is already engaged in criminal summoning, engaged in monitoring with the gang of children that are focused on me while I'm sitting on the side of the library. And license plate 1697700, vehicle 1122, vehicle 1055, license plate 1644199, vehicle 1128, license plate 1706922. On video, the Ontario Police are stalking by helicopter. They're doing so as I'm capturing these minor children that are engaging what is focusing on me while I'm sitting on the side underneath. While I'm sitting underneath the covering where the Ontario Police were engaged in stalking the other night, pursuant to criminal summoning. Somebody said that I'm yelling, they don't know who, and they're threatening to commit kidnapping while they're stalking. The entity is engaged in that pattern of conduct on video with the Ontario Police, and then you have CEASELESS that's arriving. Again, the mysterious summoning of the entity while I'm documenting the pattern of conduct. That's what they're doing the other night in the parking lot of the Glorias Cochinas. The two gang members in the two vehicles aiming light, molesting me with engineer light while they're following me around, keeping me under surveillance while I'm documenting. Okay, and you're capturing on video these demons that are staying around. These minor children are all ganged up, focusing on me. That's what you're paying attention to. And then the gang stalkers that are facilitating that amongst minors are engaging in what is targeting me on the side of that venue as well. This is the entity that's sounding helicopter activity while CEASELESS are Lily. No, let me get images of them. But the one previously engaged in the pattern of conduct is CEASELESS. She's engaged in criminal summoning in the specific environment. The entity's engaged in the same P.O.C. and they're doing so with the minor children that are engaged in gang stalking with them. They're literally monitoring together with light activity, and the entity is engaged in what is that over presence while they're engaged in stalking in the path with minors, 3 vehicles, while the entity is gang stalking now with the minor children that I'm capturing on video who are engaged in harassment. That's that adult demonic spirit using minor children who are clearly not well versed in gang stalking when these are demons that are monitoring and they're engaged in criminal activity while they're engaged in monitoring. This is the criminalization of that. And so you have what are minor children that are engaging in what the entity is engaging in typically, but these minor children are not well versed in what you're supposed to be engaging in, that passive aggressive conduct, like you're not focused, like you're not concerned, like you are ignorant. The entity is clearly underage, engaging in what is monitoring with the government that's providing helicopter activity, plane activity, fake sun, all of that P.O.C. And the children are also very much focused on me, coming to where I'm sitting, focusing on this small little hallway where there's no room. And I'm asking, can you guys go over back all the other rest of the space? And this is when S. Casas, she's going to prison. She engaged in criminal summoning with Sergeant Hall and R. Lilly. That's on video. The fake moon's over my head, the same OVITT Family Community Library. And I'm starting this. You can hear the helicopter activity where they're gang stalking. Okay, and they're gang stalking me with minor children. Just want to be clear on that. This is gang violence, and this is also the entity that is, Mike LORENZ is being removed. This is speaking to the threat that they pose to the public while they share in criminal activity. They share in demonic activity, even with those that are under the age of majority while wearing these police uniforms and engaging in that. The entity is moving the children away from me as they're arriving, but they're monitoring together. The Ontario International Airport is engaging in that, doing so Terminal 2 and Terminal 4. That's speaking to the plane activity, the relevant positioning, the fake sun that's present as of 7:47 a.m. And this is the pattern of conduct that the Ontario Police Department are engaging with minor children. Just want you to hear that, because this is the inclusion of minor children. This is relevant to what is martial law. It's the same exact P.O.C. You have the demons wearing the police uniforms engaging in it. Those are the demons that are indeed going to prison. There's no terminals over here whatsoever. There's no plane activity that's going to be hovering. You're not going to be violating the zoning laws with regard to flying over a senior citizen complex, but yet they're making complaints about my voice. That's what S. Casas claimed as her reason for being in my face when she's gang stalking me in furtherance of murder, as I documented at this same venue a little over a week ago. Okay, that's the entity that's gang stalking with the people of the state. The people of the state that are demon stalked with impossible light under a fake sun that remains over this address from 7 in the morning until what is after 4 while I'm documenting that at this address. This is where they're engaging in criminal summoning. These are videos that I will attach to the documentation. And this, I want to be clear, this is the pattern of conduct where the entity is engaging what is targeting you through minor children, using those minor children. Oh, the target individual touched me. The target individual hit me, attacked me. The target individual is scaring me. The target individual is, and those are demons that are monitoring you. The people of the state, they're demon-possessed children who are engaging in the psychopathic behavioral pattern, doing so with the police that they summon, who are altogether engaging in criminal surveillance. This, I'm giving you what is the a very malicious pattern of conduct, while it's all gang violence by the mentally deranged psychos who are all over my case. This investigation is showing the Ontario police aren't doing anything other than engaging in surveillance, which is proven as a matter of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. It's also proven on the internet while I'm maintaining this ongoing investigation that they've been keeping under surveillance and keeping me under surveillance with the intent to obstruct justice. Kidnapping me, that is. Harassing and intimidating and threatening to engage in kidnapping, which is relevant audible activity while you're monitoring. You're monitoring in furtherance of murder. You're doing so while you're stalking. You've got a gun and a badge on your chest. You're going to prison for that. And they're doing so while in the presence of children. All of this is incriminating. The entities engaging in that pattern of conduct, and what it is that you're taking from that, children are gang stalking. Children are in need of what is martial law to be separated from the people of the state. And you're removing police departments like the Ontario Police who are engaged in surveillance, facilitating and sharing in criminal conduct with kids. Gang violence with kids. P.O.C. All right, it's currently 5:08 p.m. This is what the Ontario Police S. Casas is doing with Securitas. While I was at this venue, I believe it was over a week ago. But this is the Ontario International Airport that's monitoring with the Ontario Police, and that's an unlawful threat. It's psychological torture, and it's relevant to what is an unlawful act of criminal monitoring while they are in your face wearing a police uniform, exercising fictitious authority, and they're engaging in that criminal activity at the same time. The people of the state are pacing around, psychopathic light activity. And the entities engaging in that, pacing all around. I read all their license plates. They're engaging the P.O.C. with the people of the state. That's an act of aggression. That's an act of threat. Remember, when the entity, they don't have to say a word. They arrived in the parking lot last night with their lights on. They're engaged in sexual assault and battery as an entity. They're doing so while I'm documenting the parking lot. They're doing so after the people of the state communicated threat. I'm going to call the police. You're going to call the gang members themselves who are stalking me yesterday, stalking me today, stalking me right now while you heard as I started this recording right now. That's who they are threatening to call while they are with their demon-possessed children gang stalking me. This is the population that's going to be dealt with via martial law. Understand everything, because what it is that I'm describing are the bases for the unprecedented basis for martial law because of the level of lawlessness that is including minor children that know exactly what they're doing. I stated it before. You are not going to be removed from the prosecution, just like minor children when they commit murder, and you're making a determination with regard to the ability to appreciate the criminality, the level of intent that's possible with regard to a minor, and you're making that determination. And like in any other court case, whether they have the requisite amount of intent and malice and knowledge about what they're doing when a loss of life has occurred, and whether they're going to be charged, in other words, as an adult or as a minor. The entity is clearly showing in my documentation where they're engaged in targeting, when they're engaged in this harassment, when they're engaged in focusing on me like you're seeing in the video. This is what you're deducing. That's the purpose of all of my documentation. It is also to show you that Satan uses those that are under the age of majority. All right. It is relevant to show that they are very much cognizant and aware of what they're doing, why they're doing it at the moment that they're doing it. The pattern of conduct doesn't change. It's also relevant to the entity that does so very maliciously. Okay, you have different varying levels of maturity amongst those that are under the age of majority, but you also have that maturity that is inherent to demon possession. So you have what is the pattern of conduct when they're yelling out, "Oh, you kicked him, you kicked him." They all start jumping on that narrative. You kicked him. And they're doing so with regard to what? Because that's speaking to, we're going to call the police. You kicked him. You kicked him. When you're engaging, that's speaking to a level of maturity. They are aware of the purpose, the objective. Kicking, calling the police. And who's arriving when they start yelling out, "You kicked him"? Escases. Nobody. Who's calling the police? Who called the police and why this time? Oh, they're just going around town, just happening to engage in, you know that there's no happening with regard to me. So any opportunity, in other words, that they have, such as committing assault and battery against me, and then that violent offender calls the police. That's what the Chucky doll did at the Ontario Veterinary Hospital. What type of system are you operating under if you're not aware of the fact when you put your hands on me and you broke my personal property, and then you're the one that called the police? I did not touch this female. It was not self-defense. I'm documenting the entire time. And you're engaging in what is the admission that you've committed a battery and assault and trespass to property, and you're the one that calls the gang stalking police department who are on video stalking in helicopter while I'm being assaulted, while I'm being battered, and the Ontario International Airport. In the environment where I've shown the fake sunrise and set and the fake moon at night. The environment where targeting is proven. The entities engaging in that. The knowledge which is relevant to making such accusations by minor children is speaking to maturity, knowledge about the purpose of what they're doing. Kidnapping, murder, criminal summoning. The presence of that entity. S. is one of the identifiable officers, but I'm capturing images and I'm capturing the license plates, and that's the entity that's engaging in that. That's not a coincidence. That's with regard, I just want to be clear, the ordinary target individual that doesn't know how to conduct themselves, that may be, again, being falsely depicted as one very much reasonably distressed, very much reasonably upset, even raising their voice, you are automatically going to be blamed. You're already being accused. You have a gang of what are criminals under the age of majority making what are accusations that are going to trigger those that are intending to target you to just make that arrest based on what those children are claiming you committed. This is the formula for kidnapping. This is speaking to what is the maturity. The entity, those that are under the majority, they will very much be prosecuted for federal stalking, for terrorism. And that's based on the knowledge. Also, they're engaging in that with merely possession of communication devices. The government is monitoring with minor children by virtue of them having cell phones. Okay, they're present in the environment and operation of them, pacing all around, and they are doing so knowingly. What's coming out of the mouth of these third parties that are under the age of majority is speaking to that knowledge, speaking to what is
what's the motive behind making that false allegation? You have that same pattern. What's the malice or what the purpose behind making a false allegation regarding molesting children? And that's proven. That's not some sort of ongoing controversy. It did not happen. It never happened. No evidence presenting that it happened. And I also have my own documentation that entirety of that day before kidnapping that it never happened. I didn't even have a conversation. I wasn't even in the presence. You're talking about taking pictures, which I did in front of them like I'm doing now. No molestation. Okay, and never have been, by the way. But this is what's the purpose. My point is behind these allegations that the entity engages in allegations. That's how you commit what is kidnapping. You have these children that are aware of the fact, oh, if we make an allegation, because that's what you're getting from that. Oh, so you're aware when you make that you should be making allegations with regard to seeking to what the objective is, a kidnapping. Get the attention of the police to commit that kidnapping. Oh, you hit the child, we're going to take you in. Okay, we've got word, and we're here. We're here because we were told that you did X, Y, and Z. That's what the gang stalking police are always relying on, criminal summoning. Okay, that's what you're deducing from that. Okay, now I'm maintaining an investigation. The ordinary target individual is very much going to be subject to a kidnapping. Okay, you're not going to get your side. They're not going to hear you, and you're likely going to be. And you're not mentally ill because you're reacting in any way that no one can prescribe. No one's going to tell you, and no one can tell you how you're supposed to be behaving yourself, and what's normal and what's not normal, and what's exhibiting mental illness. That is absolutely irrelevant. You're dealing with human beings who have a right to not be subject to it in the first place. You're never getting into that inquiry. The entity is engaged in targeting. And I'm letting you know what the ordinary target individual is subject to. So the entity is engaged in that, and that is exactly what is reasonably calculated, intended to result in kidnapping. The entity is engaged in this time and time and time again. I'm documenting that entity. That's federal prison. Understand the threat. Because I was not kidnapped right now does not mean you're not going to prison. They're going to prison. You're going to prison, you're engaging in surveillance, and you're bearing guns, driving around in vehicles, stalking in helicopters, and then you're arriving on the scene. First of all, you're a stalker. That's a threat while you are exercising fictitious authority, doing so including with minor children. Minor children that are monitoring through false allegations while they are harassing and targeting me. You will see them on video. They're huddled all around me. Like, where are your moms and your dads? Why are you over here by me? I don't have any candy. I don't have anything for you. And even in my video documentation, you're looking at what is an abnormal level of paying undue attention to me. Okay, the entity that people that are engaged in what is used to their phones. You have homeless people that start acting all erratic and stuff. I don't sit there and stare at them and pay attention to what. If somebody's crazy and speaking gibberish, you're not sitting there focused on them and engaging. The entity is clearly engaged in focusing on me because they are engaging in the allegations that I've stated. And this is shared by those that are under the age of majority, that lack that level of quote unquote experience, because it's not sophistication, but it's the experience. Their demon-possessed mother and father are better practiced, in other words, at what is gang stalking me and looking to the left and the right like they couldn't be more disinterested in me. That's how they're supposed to behave. Minor children are not so well versed in that. So they're not able, in other words, to engage in gang stalking with that passive-aggressive, that micro-aggressive feature. They're clearly targeting, and they're not hiding it at all. They're not hiding it very well at all. And that's what you're supposed to be doing with regard to gang stalking. And that's because you're supposed to be imagining it. You're supposed to be paranoid. You're supposed to be hallucinating. You're supposed to be, mentally ill while the entity is gang stalking you. Okay, but for the fake son, no, nobody's imagining anything. The entity that's stalking by police and helicopters, like the Ontario Police Department, are in that environment. Fake moon at nightfall while the fake sun's over you all day long. No, you're not imagining anything, even if you don't have evidence of the entity harassing you or kidnapping you, rather. You are able to prove that you are subject to surveillance in that environment, and you're not imagining anything, even if children don't come and make malicious assertions in order to summon the gang stalking police department. You are not imagining anything. Surveillance is real, and you are being targeted. But this is what the entity is engaging in, absent the evidence of the P.O.C. That's very malicious for the government to engage in that. That is by design. And this is how they accomplish accusing people and then prosecuting them as criminals that they are not, as predators that they are not. It's called criminal defamation. And that is serving the criminal purposes of an entity that targets American citizens, an entity that's maintaining surveillance in the United States without the knowledge and consent of the American people. And you do not have authority under any penal code, state or federal, in doing so. You don't have authority to engage in any sort of search and seizure. You don't have that. That's not what the Constitution provides them. Search and seizure, those are pursuant to what are prerequisites. You are actually engaged in law enforcement. You are actually engaged in what is upholding the Constitution. You don't understand. I haven't stripped them. They are totally stripped of the illusion. You're going into court and it's going to be a straightforward prosecution. You're not a police officer. You've been engaging in what is masquerading acting. You don't have any of the bureaucratic means of protecting yourself, of defending yourself, of defending what it is that you're doing wearing that uniform. That uniform is nothing other than a costume, because what you're doing is known. And what you're doing in that costume is also relevant. The fact that you're doing it in that costume, that's how you seek to get away with it. That's called malice. That's called malice. And you're going to prison for that by virtue of that costume. All right, the entities engaging in that P.O.C., and they're doing so while they are sharing in that pattern of conduct with the intent to, in other words, get away with kidnapping you and even murdering you, flipping on their sirens and speeding down the street, and they don't know that you're in the middle of the street. And actually they do, because you don't know that, first of all, that they're demons, that they're engaged in surveillance in the U.S., and they're engaged in what is targeting you, including while they turn those sirens on. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in that P.O.C. Is there a reason why you're aiming your light on me? Is there a reason why you're aiming your light on me? Is there a reason why you're aiming light? This is a demon and he's engaged in sexual assault and battery, and he's doing so, again, the bidding of the Ontario Police Department. I just want to be clear, that's speaking of knowledge. Minor children, because I've documented them and they're going to be prosecuted. I documented minors, they're going to be prosecuted as terrorists, they're going to be prosecuted as sex offenders. It's going on their records. And to majority, and you're not getting it expunged for terrorism when you turn 18. I just want to be clear, because that's what you're getting. This is a sex offender. This is a demon. Their pattern of conduct is speaking to what is instinct for them, because they're demons. So understand that. That's how a little kid knows to aim light on me. That's how a little kid knows to turn up the volume with regard to his scooter. As I start speaking, he shouldn't even know anything about Otif El-Kadi, about Mike Lorenz, but with simultaneity to my speaking, the very damning when I'm dropping names in that video, you will see this demon that's acting on instinct, doesn't know the people. You know the police chief? You know the president of the airport authority? No, but that's a demon that's acting on instinct. That's where you're getting that ongoing ability to engage in the same pattern of conduct. This is instinct with regard to what is demon possession of a minor child that's engaged in criminal activity. Children that are going to be prosecuted as violent sex offenders in the U.S. All right, children that are going to be prosecuted as terrorists in the U.S., children that are very much in need of what are being dealt with via martial law based on the threat that they pose, when this criminal system is underway by the people of the state and their demon-possessed children. All right, this is informing the government, because you need to appreciate the threat. It's just like you've heard of, it's not different. Being in third world countries and they put large bazookas in the hands of minor children. Why? Because you least expect that child to blow your head off. And I don't mean to put it in those terms, but I'm putting it in those graphic terms because you need to understand and appreciate the threat. Don't turn your back on a minor child because you think that that's a kid while you're getting their parents in the midst of a raid, telling that child that you assume is, and no, that's not what you're dealing with at all. That's not what you're dealing with. The entity that is gang stalking me over and under the age of majority, the entity that's gang stalking me with the government in concert with that population, the entirety of that population, the entity that's gang stalking me while they're being exposed in real time. They don't even stop it when the camera's rolling. They don't even stop it as the evidence is on the internet. And the world, including the feds, but the world is watching them. They're still doing it. This is relevant to recognizing the threat, the government, those of you that are going to have to come in and conduct raids, that are going to have to come in and regulate what is this population of severely mentally unstable criminals, lawless terrorists. And it includes minor children. You're dealing with a spirit that is invisible over children, over teenagers, minors. You do not under any circumstances treat them differently with regard to the pattern of conduct, and that's the threat that they have educated you about. I'm not telling you to treat them one way because I don't like them and because I don't like these kids and I'm mad at, no. They are informing you and I'm letting you know this is what you're looking at and this is what I said a long time ago. That threat does not have an age. That threat doesn't have a gender. That threat doesn't have an income bracket. That threat doesn't have any linguistic barrier. Do not be deceived. It could cost you your life. These are demons that are engaged in that P.O.C. with knowledge. That instinctual engagement in that pattern of conduct? No, you're not aware about the Ontario Airport Board and the Ontario executive team, but that demon is engaged in the same pattern of conduct with regard to what is, as I recite names, as the entity is looking at, you're looking at that fake sun, that's very damning, okay? That's very damning, my video that I captured. The fake sun's over next to that same clock at 7 this morning. And what are these minor children that don't know about who Alan D. Wapner is, I'm sure. They don't know who Alan D. Wapner is. They don't know who Otif El-Kadi is. They don't know anything about deport. Well, they might know about deportation because it might affect their families, but nothing in depth. But this is something that is speaking to what is the pattern of conduct, as I've shown you. The entity engages in the pattern of conduct and does so with regard to what it is that I say as I say it. The entity shows aggression while they stalk you with impossible light activity, while the audible activity gets louder, while the light activity becomes more radiant, more spectacular, that is more threatening, more demonic, more terrorizing, more frightening, more horrifying, threatening your life while they're monitoring you in furtherance of murdering you. Those minor children are doing so with regard to knowledge. That knowledge is proven through their engagement in the pattern of conduct, not their audible activity stating, I don't know, and I didn't mean to, and I'm only 7, and my mom is over there, and I was just riding my scooter that my granddad bought. No, that's audible activity. Their knowledge is deduced from their behavioral pattern. The threat that they pose is deduced from that pattern of conduct that they share with the same exact police department that's being disbanded. These are the ways in which you are understanding how you are assessing mental illness, the environment. The behavioral pattern is getting to that. These are the ways in which you're getting to what is understanding. This Satan is always telling you, and the entity is sharing a pattern of conduct. Random children that I've never met before engaging in that same P.O.C. That's not a coincidence. It is the ability to make categorical assessments regarding what's going on in an area, in a region, amongst a people, amongst a government. And it's for your protection. This is very much requiring martial law. Okay? This is why gang stalking parents, an oxymoron, that's going to be dealt with federal prison, loss of custody. Gang stalking police officers is going to be dealt with martial law, federal prison, mental examinations. Gang stalking mayors, loss of position in office as a domestic terrorist. Public information. You don't get to slither out of office silently and just resign and nobody. No, not at all. It's a matter of, it's newsworthy and it's a matter of public information. It shall be. You need to understand. This is not going to be dealt with like it has with every other. They are engaged, they're caught in a threesome with a transvestite, and then the mayor just wants to, quietly resign, and you don't know anything about it. Oh, he resigned because he found out his wife had cancer, and so he or she are, oh no, that's not what we're doing. You will be removed from office. You can resign, but you will not be, you can resign beforehand, but it will be public information as to why you are not in office. You are not escaping exposure. And you are also not exempt from a prosecution like Paul Leon, a federal prosecution. Alrighty, I just want to make sure that all of those points are touched. This is the entity that's engaging that was a threat to commit kidnapping right there. You go to prison for that. They're going to federal prison for threats that are made expressly and impliedly by virtue of their position. Why? Because they can shoot you down and then control the narrative as to what happened after the fact. That threat is unlawful. It is such a high threat, a federal prison is mandated. You engage in threatening by virtue of your identity, by virtue of the position that you have, by virtue of the corruption with regard to covering it up, by virtue of the fact that you're engaged in criminal surveillance, which is proven. You can't even be trusted. You're engaged in surveillance and you don't tell anybody about that. You didn't tell the American people about that. Why should we be believing anything you're saying about what happened while this American citizen is dead and can't speak to the truth about what happened to them? No one trusts you. No one believes you, and no one should. And you're going to prison. Threats expressly and impliedly communicated through the behavior, through the environment, through the engagement with the people of the state, including those under the age of majority. The Ontario International Airport gang stalking while the Ontario police are in my face, they're going to prison. Minor children making false allegations while they're engaged in gang stalking me, gang violence by minor children, while the entity is gang stalking with the Ontario police. You see the Ontario police. That's federal prison. They're engaged in psychological torture, they're engaged in kidnapping, and they're engaged in murder. Murder, which they call a use of force. Murder is being referred to as a use of force, reasonable or unreasonable, while they're given unfettered unfettered discretion, and they are given unwarranted legitimacy. You're not even questioning, oh, we're going to investigate what happened. And let me be clear. There's no investigation regarding reasonableness or the lack thereof because of the existence of criminal surveillance. That's homicide, a loss of life while you're engaged in criminal activity. It is a murder. And that is exactly what is reasonably to occur when you're engaged in surveillance of an American citizen. And it's already known. The P.O.C. proves that. So you are already within my trap. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. This is an entity that's engaged in that. This is speaking to that corrupt system which enables and facilitates criminal surveillance where gang stalking can happen, as opposed to the reality of that system. And then you're looking at the facts as they exist. With the reality, the knowledge, everyone knows that they are keeping everything under surveillance. So the reality in that, under that scope, this is what you know, and this is what happened. That's not an accident under those circumstances. That's not reasonable force under those circumstances. We're not even getting into that inquiry because you're not even supposed to be in their presence. You're communicating a threat by virtue of your presence. They see you. You're communicating a threat. Gang stalking police can commit murder and kidnapping and get away with it. They're gang members. They are the worst gang members in the world because the courts back them and facilitate and enable them. They are, contrary to what you've heard, more diabolical than the Crips and the Bloods. It is currently 5:30 p.m. This is P.O.C. at the OVITT Family Community Library, and like I stated, these demons have dug their own graves. The entity at the OVITT Family Community Library, they're going to prison. They are going to federal prison. And I continuously prosecute them for the kidnapping that they conducted on June 16, 2022, every day that I'm subject to the pattern of conduct by that agency that engaged in what are making false allegations, not just false, but malicious because of surveillance. Meaning it's not just false, meaning you were unsure, you were incorrect without any knowledge to prove otherwise at that time. No, it's malicious because you're engaged in surveillance and you know exactly what I did and did not do. And you're also engaged in what is gang stalking me before and after that kidnapping on June 16, 2022, like what I'm documenting today. You're going to federal prison. And so are the demons at the OVITT Family Community Library. This is P.O.C. All right. It is Sunday, January 11, 2026. At the OVITT Family Community Library, 215 East C Street, and the entity is maintaining the ongoing pattern of conduct in concert with the Ontario Police, who engage in criminal summoning that is conspicuously stalking me and threatening and harassing me, and doing so. What you're looking at today with minor, and what you're listening to today with minor children, who are always a part of that pattern of conduct. That's what's going on inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. They do the same thing with those that are mentally incapacitated, developmental problems. This is what OPARC and Anthesis are engaging in. In the same way that you're gang stalking with minor children, you're subject to prison. You're going to be prosecuted with regard to abuse. You're going to be subject to the federal prosecution, and the entity engages psychopaths, engage in more of it. When I go through the analysis and talk about this is a crime, the demon-possessed engage in more of it. Okay? You have a desire to engage in criminal activity that results in federal prison. You're manifesting prison, sweetie. That's exactly what you're going to get. It is currently 5:32 p.m.
Alrighty, these are the psychopaths that are stalking me with children, minor children that are going to be prosecuted for federal stalking and furtherance of murder with the government. They're going to be prosecuted as terrorists. They're going to be prosecuted as sex offenders while the government is acting in concert with them under the age of majority in the same exact manner that they are with those who are over majority. Equally engaged in what is the demented and sexually violent pattern of conduct of bathroom monitoring, for example, surveillance in private spaces, vagina monitoring in the engineered environment. This is my shadow that's appearing on the wall in front of me. Those are demons that are stalking with the government. Where there are no terminals over here, they're engaged in gang stalking. And that's what they were doing with minor children. These demons give birth to demons who are engaging in criminal surveillance in the United States, and that's why they're losing custody of them. You saw those gang members under the age of majority engaging in terrorism and harassment on behalf of the gang members of the Ontario Police, where that airport is stalking at that same OVITT Family Community Library. Where today you see again on this street, at this block, the entity has the fake sun 7:47 a.m. and I'm capturing it on video at that same location after 4 p.m. where that airport is stalking. In furtherance of murdering an American citizen. That is no airport. It's not going to remain. It's going to be shut down. And I'm going to prosecute civilly and criminally the vagina monitors that are stalking me and follow me around in the city of Ontario while they're watching me upload the evidence. That's relevant to your mental illness. That's relevant to civil damages. It's relevant to time in prison and the mental examinations that you are going to be subject to. The pattern of conduct is underway by all the people of the state while the airport tails on everybody else who is also gang stalking. This is P.O.C. All right, the entity's maintaining what is light activity, relevant positioning, and audible activity. These are all stalkers who know who I am. This is surveillance. And you don't have any privacy in the U.S., as the demon-possessed have told their all their own secrets. While I just hold up the camera and the stupidity persists. Okay? They're over there stalking me with light. Remember the video last night? You can't even reach over here with headlights. You're blinding that driver if they're engaging in what I showed last night, molesting me with impossible light on the opposite side of the block. They are engaged in surveillance, and they keep my vagina under surveillance, which is why they are in need of martial law, including the psychopaths that crash planes into buildings like what UPS did in Kentucky while they're engaging in what is domestic terrorism, stalking as an entity. A mentally ill one. Demon-possessed people are what engage in. Demon possession is now not only no longer any sort of thing that you're reasonably questioning, it is a fact, and it's also legally relevant with regard to criminal conduct in the United States, in which you need to know that it is literally a threat to national security. P.O.C. I'm at 537 North Euclid Avenue. The entity keeping me under surveillance all night long, obsessing over me, molesting me with them while they're stalking, and the entity is so mentally ill. They're awaiting prosecution. They are looking and witnessing what is going to be even more worldwide exposure, and they're so mentally ill that they're continuously engaging in it. This is the suicidal population that's mentally ill that poses a threat to you and I. It is 9:01 p.m. The demon-possessed that are engaging in keeping me under surveillance are gang stalking and furtherance of murder together. P.O.C. This is what psychopaths do when they're angry that their criminal surveillance and conspiracy to murder has been exposed. They fly over the top of your head as though they're going to drop bombs on you. And this is the third time the entity's doing so while they're stalking at the intersection where I'm being sexually assaulted and battered with engineered light, which is the federal RICO case against all the businesses that are gang stalking like Starbucks, UNICARE, ARCO, CHEVRON, the sex offenders who are the people of the state, engaged in the pattern of conduct with the government that uses helicopters as they are engaged in terrorism and psychological torture and sexual violence, which is an unlawful touching with engineered light in order to monitor you, which is committed in furtherance of murder. This is going to be a disbanded agency, and they're going to federal prison, as are the people of the state, the domestic terrorists. This is P.O.C. This is relevant to Title 18 because I'm publishing. The entities engaged in what is ongoing threatening conduct. This is filling the substance of my body of documentation. Not only proof that they're stalking me and have committed a series of kidnappings in order to criminally defame, but they're doing so more because the demon is upset while I'm publishing the evidence. And the federal judges, you're going to put them in prison. P.O.C. It is currently... The people of the state are stalking. This is conspicuous. They're going to prison as well. The people of the state are going to prison. License plate, it's 10:09 p.m. This is 507 North Euclid Avenue where they committed kidnapping with Starbucks. Starbucks that's gang stalking me right now. That demon is in relevant position. She's at the bar. She's engaged in the P.O.C. While that's psychopathic pacing. While they're all monitoring everything that I'm publishing online. That's why they're at the gas stalls and they're molesting me with impossible light. That's why they're at the gas stalls at the ARCO driving on the property to engage in sexual assault and battery. And then they're profiting from gang stalking me. That's a federal RICO case. In furtherance of murder. While you're going to disband the terrorists themselves. The Ontario Police, Mike LORENZ is going to prison. This is the ongoing evidence, which you're seeing all over the internet. He's going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:10 p.m. This is the published, ongoing, worldwide exposure of the psychological breakdown of psychopaths that have been playing in too many dark spirits, and demon possession is speaking to what is the prosecution of the government for domestic terrorism, because this is highly imprudent conduct that's going to be in court to prosecute them, and it's going to be cinematic. This is P.O.C.